Hi, you guys. I hope you're well. I haven't done YouTube a lot this week because I've been catching my breath. It was very sad to see so many people suffering when I got home. A lot of people with water all around their homes. Property is completely devastated. My neighbor had a tree fall onto his roof and he's elderly, and I really felt for him. A lot of sadness, I guess, sensed around the community, and a lot of restaurants and businesses impacted, no power for 5 days. So all their food went bad, and the internet went down and no one could communicate, and the cell phone towers went down. So the electric was out for the internet, for example, First Spectrum. It's nuts. Anyway, it was really sad, and I needed to take stock of how I felt. I wasn't feeling very creative, and so I apologize for taking a time out. Content is challenging because you can't take a break, really. And when life happens and it's tough, it's hard to get off the ride for a minute. But I'm back today, and I just want to say thank you for all your support. I know that some of you sent me tips in the tip jar on the YouTube, and some of you guys bought shirts to show your support, and it really meant a lot because I was damaged like everybody financially. But hopefully FEMA will help, and the insurance companies will help, and in the end, it'll all work out for everyone. Okay, so let's get into the fun stuff. First, this video is going to cover all the things that have been sold by Erika Girardi to date, because there's been a lot of action on this front. And I want to give you guys an update on the earrings and the auction that just happened on September 21st of the mansion and the previous auction, and just kind of tie it all together. Then I wanted to let you know my theory as to why I think Erika Jayne Girardi might get fired, which you guys think is impossible. So let's start with that. Okay, so I'm going to have to tap my season 2 ancient knowledge to have you understand where my theory comes from. So Taylor Armstrong was on the chopping block for Housewives of Beverly Hills in season 2. And that is why they were looking for someone for her to film with other than her husband, since passed away, Russell Armstrong, which I think is one of the reasons they ended up using me as a friend of Taylor Armstrong. In real life, we were friends, so it made sense on that front too. But Russell had a conversation with me back in the day and said, listen, Taylor has to be shooting with someone. She's not able to perform with me, and we need to get someone else in there. She should suggest you for a role, which, by the way, she never did. I ended up casting through Corey Feldman's manager, who is my good friend. So what happens is Corey Feldman's manager says to me, Dana, oh my gosh, you should cast for this show because you are exactly what they're looking for naturally. And I was like, okay, cool. Send me the stuff over. So he did, and he didn't want a fee or anything. He just did it out of friendship for me because I'd helped him with a bunch of sponsorship, trying to go out on behalf of Corey Feldman. So anyway, I end up getting the gig that way. But what I learned was from Russell that Taylor was at risk of losing her job after season 2. So anyway, they ironically make me shoot with her as her friend of, and so that's how I come on the show. And that actually is true. I was her friend before going on the show, so it all worked out. So season 2 happens, and during the season, Camille calls out Taylor's abuse, which I think the producers were trying to get accomplished since season 1, because Taylor did, in her audition tapes, tell them about it. And I think they were trying to have that present itself. And I think Taylor was very conflicted about this. In one way, she wanted it to come out so she could escape him and the vicious cycle she was in. And in another way, she wanted to keep it secret because she was super afraid of losing her lifestyle and possibly having him kill her and her child. So there was high stakes stuff with this coming out. And, So it was a really messed up situation. But then what transpired was that Taylor Armstrong's husband committed suicide after the abuse played out on the show of season 2. And so suddenly the press went into a frenzy over this. And, you know, they even did, I think, if I recall right, a special episode at the end where they talk about suicide and all this stuff. And then it blew into a book that became a bestseller about abuse and all these other things. And so she comes back for a season 3. Now, the feeling that I got at the time was that they threw her a season because they couldn't be seen as being that cruel. In other words, exploit Taylor on season 2 and all of her misery and abuse and the passing of her husband, and then like kick her to the curb, right? They needed to give her that season 3 to sort of show the fans what ends up happening to Taylor. And then she, sure enough, is fired. Send her on her way. Now, Erika's been on the show for many, many years, and that is different. But we don't know if she was at risk before all this happened with Tom Girardi. And so it's possible that she was getting the feeling that she might be booted out. And then all of a sudden, you know, the divorce, all this stuff blows up, and it gets her a big season, which is like just the blowing up and nuking of her life, which is happening on camera, right? Which was last season, season 11. So I think, much like Taylor, that last season, to sort of let this all rest and set, you know, maybe give her like some positive edit. You know, very difficult with Erika because she doesn't put positive out there, but do their best to put that out there and then sort of walk away from her because of the fact that it could be limiting their advertisers and it's unnecessary. There's other drama that you could do, and this is already played out. It's just more and more of the same bitter legal battles over money being stolen to fund her lavish lifestyle, you know, that she basically did for the show in a sense. So it's like, I mean, as an advertiser, you're like, I don't really want her. That's not really on brand. You know, that's not really sticking any landing for us. So that's why I think she's next to go. And she doesn't bring anything additional to the table except defending herself in lawsuit, which unfortunately for her, she is guilty by association, if nothing else. So that's all I have to say on that. But a bunch of you always DM me about this. So I wanted to make sure I put it out there on this channel too. Now, let's talk about an update on Erika. Remember this auction? This was the one that 360 Asset Managers did of Girardi Keys' office. And some of the things in this one was like an oil painting of Tom Girardi and I don't know what, but it's just ridiculous. Like he's the king. And Ryan Bailey got that, put it over his bed from So Bad It's Gotta Love Ryan. And gosh, they were selling a Cadillac. They were selling U-shaped desks and old computer system air filtration system. What else did they have in that silly auction? Oh, lots of champagne and wine. My favorite item auctioned at the Girardi Keys auction, though, was this. It was the lingerie that wasn't in Erika Jayne Girardi's size and mystified her as to why it was at his offices with the tag still on. Anyway, this auction was done in 2021, and it raised, I think, $231,000 after all the fees were paid to the company that did the auction. Okay, but don't worry because there's still the Pasadena house, which just got auctioned off on September 21st. Not the property itself, but the items in it. So this auction was related to this house, not the property itself, but what was inside of it. And why it did so well is there was a lot of this type of stuff. It was like very Baroquean, I don't know, maybe Italian styled furniture. Here's another one. So this last auction was done by John Monroe Auctioneers, and it raised more. It raised $493,641, but they won't keep all of that. There'll be a large percentage given to the auction house, and then whatever's left over will then go to the victims that are next in line. Not a lot of dough. I mean, the tabloids were like, this is a lot of money. If this debt's a flu, that's like a sneeze. Thankfully, TMZ had someone at the auction, and they said that some of the bigger items sold were J. Seward Johnson Jr. bronze sculpture for $13,750, a black lacquered cabinet with mythological oil paintings. I showed you that one. $11,875, a black lacquered chinois series style console table with gift highlights, $10,000. God, people just acquire so much just crap. And 2 Michael Taylor Montecito outdoor garden armchairs, $7,150. The 2 highest memorabilia pieces went to the 1993 Spalding NBA Finals ball signed by Michael Jordan, which sold for $4,688. I guess the thing I wonder about, are there any memories attached to these objects for either Erika Girardi or Tom Girardi? I wonder about that. So 2 days ago, the Pasadena mansion got sold for $7.5 million to Jun Tao and Peng Tao. And they said under perjury of law that they had no affiliation with Tom Vince Girardi or his bankruptcy estate or the bankruptcy trustee. Ronald Richards tried to buy the house for $7 million. I guess the magic number was $7.5 million. Well, these people are saying they have no affiliation to Tom Girardi. Do they have an affiliation to Erika Girardi? Do they have an affiliation to Girardi Keys? I mean, I am so tainted about this whole thing now. I'm like, I think corruption is everywhere. I'm going to have to look into them. So Ronald Richards posted this today, which I thought was interesting. It's a list of all the liabilities that Erika Jayne Girardi is subject to right now personally. This is page 1. And this is page 2. Okay, so for those of you who are driving, it's about $30 million that Erika Jayne Girardi is being sued over, some of which is federal IRS tax lien debt. There's also the approximate $500 million that is still being pursued by a bunch of creditors on behalf of, clients and loan providers and vendors of Girardi Keys. So that brings me to the earrings. As of October 5th, 2022, when I'm recording this video, the trustee has filed a request to the court to once and for all sell the diamond earrings that are worth somewhere between $750,000 to $1.2 million, depending on who you go off of, right? So we'll see if a judge finally releases these earrings to the trustee to sell, because at the moment, Erika's fighting tooth and nail for them. And she put in a filing which says this: the appeal arises from the bankruptcy court order granting the trustee's turnover motion on the theory that the underlying property earring gifted to and innocently received by Mrs. Girardi in 2007 from her now estranged and then wealthy husband — was he really ever wealthy though? — was purchased using fraudulently transferred funds. Through a turnover motion, the trustee seeks to blame Ms. Girardi for events occurring more than 15 years ago to GK, as to which it is undisputed that, as found by the bankruptcy court, Ms. Girardi had no part and had no knowledge. See June 28, 2022 hearing transcript at 1912-18. The bankruptcy court decision raises an important issue of whether the law allows setting aside or otherwise challenging events of 15 years ago to take away a gift of property which does not belong to the bankruptcy which was received by an innocent spouse. So they go on to argue that the bankruptcy court erred in allowing the turnover motion to happen because of statute of limitations. They then argue that since the earrings were bought with client funds Girardi Keys used client money, which he was trustee over, to buy the earrings, and therefore they are not a part of the Girardi Keys or Tom Girardi personal bankruptcy. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with the technical arguments that Erika Girardi's lawyers are making about the earrings? Should she get to keep the $700,000 plus earrings? Or should she do what her castmates are saying, which is regardless of whether or not you have to legally give them back anyway, because they were bought with dirty money and they never belonged to you in the first place. And what do they mean by that? Well, they mean that the money was bought with client money. Victims that have been impacted are getting screwed because of it, honestly. There is a missing element in all of this for me, and that is theft. The fact that Girardi was the trustee and stole client money, stole it to buy diamond earrings for his spouse. To me, no matter how much time goes by, legally they should be, sold, and that money should be paid to the person who was stolen from as restitution. So I feel like we're missing a criminal component in this case. I mean, let's be really clear here. The statute of limitations in a criminal case are very different. For example, if one of the client monies that Tom Girardi stole from happened to be public funds, there is no statute of limitation. But since, for whatever reason, there hasn't been any criminal charges brought against Tom Girardi, which to me is incredibly shocking. Doesn't that seem strange to you? I understand why they haven't been brought against Erika Girardi, but not Tom. I really hope that the moral of this story doesn't end up being give lots of political donations to people in your state, cheat on your spouse, steal money from your clients, and put it off as long as possible because you're definitely going to get away with it. And then when you're really, really old, be rewarded for having a Ponzi scheme. And if you do all that, guess what? You might even get your own TV show and become a big star. So I'll leave it there, you guys. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Try to get the video in more people's eyes so they see it. I hope you're well. Big kisses. I missed you.